Hey guys, Dwayne here. Want to talk a little bit about perseverance and your narcissist, and I mean that in the regards of the perseverance we have to have in dealing with ours. You probably have already noticed going through this that it just seems like it doesn't ever stop. There's always something that comes up, and it's an ongoing process. I've talked before in comments and in other videos about how this takes a really long time, and I think some people miss what the reality of that is. And I say that because I want you to understand it. I generally probably don't talk about it in how long it's been for me in specific terms, just because it can be a little depressing. When you look at the fact that when I say long time, I'm talking about, for the overall process, we're talking about years, really. Now, that doesn't mean that in the beginning, getting to certain stages, could happen sooner, but even still, that takes a long time. But one thing you're going to notice if you're dealing with somebody who genuinely has a personality disorder is they don't ever stop. People will make the reference, the Terminator reference, about that they just won't stop. They just will not stop until they're done. And unfortunately, that is literally the case. If you've been watching some of my latest videos, I've been talking about some issues that I've been having with my youngest, and it's, I mentioned the other day that I'd emailed her to say, offered up to just let my daughter stay with me for the week so I can work with her. Excuse me. I knew that was going to be a non-starter. Partly it was just an exercise to see if there would be any response or anything. It was completely ignored, which that's what I expected. Over the course of the weekend, I received additional emails from the teachers elaborating on how the situation has degraded even more than what I originally thought. That was sent to my ex, plus I've forwarded that to my ex as well, along with some recommendations. And again, I followed my hybrid no contact method of communication. It was a couple of sentences, no derogatory comments, a recommendation, and that's it. I didn't go into any other detail on it. Primarily the reason I did that is I know how this typically works. There's no accountability at the other house. I'm the one who ends up having to set boundaries and enforce them, which makes me out to be the bad guy. So my goal on that, was to bring it up to the point where she had to do something, so at least there was some type of consequence, or at least perceived consequence at her mom's house, so that whenever she does come home on Wednesday, which is the day you're watching this, so later today, that it isn't just me, right? I don't have to deal with it so much easier at mom, which I probably still will, to be perfectly honest. I probably will deal with the fact that I want to do this with mommy, she helps me better, whatever. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, because that's pretty frustrating. I did have to deal with that significantly last year, maybe a little bit this year, and partly it's just my youngest lashing out, trying to, I don't know, exert some control, or it's just frustrating. So anyway, so that's where I'm at with this, and that rolls back into the topic of this video of just your own perseverance, right? You have to just keep plugging along, doing the best that you can, trying to make sure that you keep your emotions in check, that you stay as rational as possible, try to come up with a logical plan, and just stick with it. Modify it as appropriate to, whatever's working, stay with that. What isn't working, shift off of that. Hopefully, with the relationship I have with my youngest, because I think it's a pretty good one, I will be able to have some positive change on this. The fact that the teachers are finally getting involved, and she was even sent to the principal for inappropriate behavior, maybe that attention will help. I'm not entirely sure, but it's frustrating. I mean, it's like I've been dealing with this. This is the 4th year that I've had to deal with this with my youngest, and it's really frustrating. I know I've talked to you guys about this before. With my oldest, I had the same problem when he was in junior high. So the first 2 years of that were a train wreck, and he finally figured it out towards like the 3rd quarter on his 8th grade. And then, but he did it because he realized he could put everything off to the end. I helped him, and he was able to get his grades up. Well, at the end of the year, they didn't, there wasn't extra time. So whenever he put everything to the last minute, he almost failed because things started going wrong, and the time that he had to do it ran out. So, but when he started high school, he got it. That he finally realized that he put everything together, and he's been basically self-sufficient since then. But the frustrating part was, as soon as I was done with that, and I thought, oh, thank God, I mean, we finally have, I finally have a reprieve. The situation with my youngest has started up, and it has gone on every year since. And this year has actually been the worst. So, we'll see how it ultimately plays out. I mean, I think she has some really great teachers. They're really involved. They're trying to do the best they can. They're willing to try to work with the parents. I think from my conversations with them, they understand. I don't mean my conversations with them about what's going on. I mean, my conversations with them and what they've said to me leads me to believe that they understand the dilemma that we're in on this. So so this video can be a two-parter, not a two-part video, but has 2 different meanings. One, it can be depressing because this is an ongoing fight, right? And that can feel really frustrating. It can feel overwhelming, and it can feel like you're beating your head against the wall. And in some ways that is true. On the flip side to that, we all still have a really big impact on our kids' lives. And if we can somehow connect with them and make them understand that, we do have their best interests at heart, and we're really trying to take care of them, I still believe that there's a really good possibility that we can break through and have a positive impact. I mean, I saw that with my oldest. My youngest this one's a little more, I mean, everyone's different, and this one seems to be a lot more complicated than what I was dealing with my son, but I still feel hopeful that this is going to work out in a positive way. Okay, the problem is with all of this is that we really don't know how it's going to play out. But I firmly believe that we have a really good opportunity to have a positive impact on our kids' lives. Unfortunately, it's not easy. Unfortunately, it isn't simple. Our kids, like I've mentioned before, are completely trapped in the middle of this. I'm sure a lot of this is acting out, that what my daughter's doing is acting out because of just the sheer stupidity and craziness of the situation, because of the chaos and the emotional abuse. But I mean, at the end of the day, I only have 50% of the time, and I do not have a ton of money to go back to court and fight for full custody. And to be perfectly honest, and I've talked about this before, even if I was able to do that, my ex is not going to just roll over, be defeated, and do nothing. I would fully expect her to do everything in her power to undermine everything with the kids, to try to she would amp up pitting them against me to extraordinary levels, and would probably make the situation significantly worse. Now, potentially, it would be better, and to be perfectly honest, if I did have the money to fight it, I would. Because I honestly believe it would be in the best interest of my kids if they had a stable environment 80% of the time, and didn't have to deal with the chaos except for weekends or when it didn't matter, right? They could have fun, they could go do stuff, they could play little games, she could be their friend instead of a parent, and that would be okay. The problem is whenever these people have to also, or need to also be a parent, they're not going to do it. So if you find yourself in this situation, and you find yourself getting really frustrated and burnout and tired and just overwhelmed, just know that you really do serve a very important part in your kids' lives. And you're really the only lifeline or the only rock that they have to really navigate through this. So, focus on that. Focus on the little improvements that you do make. Focus on the improvements you make with your relationship with your kids. And know that without you, they would grow up in that environment without any other indication that there could be something different. And that is setting them up for a continued cycle of abuse, to either turn into an abuser, in my opinion, or to become a victim of one, or become a target of one. And the sad part is that, for all of us who grew up in those environments, and I'm one of them, is you learn that behavior, or you think that behavior is normal. So when it happens, you're disappointed about it later in life, but you expect it. So you expect for people to do things like that. Do you expect for people to treat you badly, or to not really care about you, or to do underhanded things because that's what's normal to you? Okay, so on that, if you want to add to this conversation, please add a comment in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. And I will chat with you guys on the next video. Take care.